And welcome everyone to this week's episode of Craze's Corner. We got bust tonight, guys, to avoid in your drafts. Will and Jeff from Media and Presser have joined me. How are we doing tonight, guys?
Doing well, man. Doing well, Zach.
Doing great.
We got some guys here, not quite a positive show as the one we just recorded, The Sleepers, which is already out, so you can go watch that one if you haven't already. But we got some busts here. And now when we talk about busts in fantasy football, these aren't necessarily guys that are going to come out and get you 0 points, guys that are going to be bad. It's guys that aren't going to live up to their ADP. So guys that I'm avoiding in my drafts, guys that I haven't really drafted at all, guys that, they may still be, maybe he's still a wide receiver 2, but if he's going as a wide receiver 1, then maybe that's not a value that you're trying to target. So that's kind of the direction I went with my bust. Some people are actually just not going to be good at football as well. But that's not the direction that I've gone. Maybe one guy we're going to talk about today is not very good at football. But we're going to start out with a guy who's great at football, and that's Ladd McConkey with the Chargers. I think that he's in a great offense with the Chargers offense. He was great last year, broke out as a rookie. He really showed that he could be a wide receiver 1. But unfortunately for him, he's in an offense with Hampton and Najee Harris. Once he gets back, that's going to run the ball a lot. And who do the Chargers bring in? None other than Chargers legend, guy who's led the team in targets for how many years? Keenan Allen. And I don't think Keenan Allen's going to lead this team in targets. I think Ladd McConkey is still going to be the wide receiver 1. But his current ADP on Sleeper is wide receiver 11. And I do not have Ladd McConkey projected to be a top 12 wide receiver. So he's a guy that I haven't been targeting. I have him around the 19 mark, my wide receiver 19, which is still going to be an okay wide receiver. You're going to be able to start him as a wide receiver 2. But in drafts, when he's going in the second round, that's not where you're going to get any value for him. I think that you're going to put yourself in a position if you take him where he might be your wide receiver 1, and I don't think that's going to be a position you want to be in. Keenan Allen will come in. He was still, despite being old, he was still good with the Chargers, or not with the Chargers, with the Bears last season. Even in a bad offense, he still had the same amount of touchdowns as Ladd. He started lining up outside a little bit more, so you'll have both of these guys on the field together. Keenan probably being outside and Ladd in the slot, which does benefit Ladd a little bit. But I do think that this is a team with a lower passing volume than you kind of expect if you wanted both these two guys to be top 10 wide receivers. This is not the offense for that. Ladd was a volume-based guy last season. He's not going to be that guy that goes for two catches and has 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, that's not how he profiles to be. Him and Keenan are both guys that live off the volume, and I think they'll get it. Like, there's not too many other options in this offense for them to go with, so I think that they'll both get volume. But just, to me, taking him as your wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 1 just isn't really, in the range of outcomes for him. I think that he's going to be a wide receiver 2, a guy who maybe doesn't quite have as many, huge boom weeks, and just kind of there around, that wide receiver 2 mark week in, week out, puts up overall in the season good numbers, but nothing that's really going to be like, okay, I'm winning my weeks multiple weeks in a row because of Ladd McConkey. Jeff and Will, are you guys targeting Ladd McConkey, or do you feel about the same way with the addition of Keenan Allen to this offense?
Yeah, I think he's going to take a step back, sort of the quote-unquote sophomore slump because of what they've added. Last year he was probably the only wide receiver of note. Quentin Jefferson came in and or Johnston had a couple of, games where he had multiple touchdowns, but then you can see at any time he's dropping stuff. So, that was just like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and start throwing to McConkey now a little bit more. But now, with Keenan Allen back, basically, I call him, a security blanket in that offense. And now with the running game, knowing that, that's Harbaugh's MO, I think he's going to he's not going to get as many targets and also some of the rookies as well. They've got a better wide receiver core, so he's not going to have to do as much as he has.
And they brought in Conklin as well from the Jets at tight end, and they bring in Hampton, who's really good at catching the ball out of the backfield. So really, when you're looking at Ladd, I was lower on him even before the Keenan Allen signing than his ADP was. And I think with the signing of Keenan Allen, he just loses a few targets. Will, you're on the same page here. You're just kind of not targeting him in ADP.
And the coaching change is huge on the philosophy of that offense. So, I think he's going to be he's a good player, probably going to be a very good player for the next few years. But, when your offense is run first, and this is going to be a run first team, it changes the dynamic.
Yeah, he's a great NFL player. For fantasy, not going to live up to his ADP, in my opinion. Will, you have a kind of similar player here. Who is your guy that you think is going to be a bust for fantasy?
I think to your point, being overdrafted higher than they should be right now is Bucky Irving. I mean, 9th running back off the board, 17th overall. And honestly, I see guys lower than that. I like Hampton with the Chargers. I like Henderson with the Patriots. I just think there's guys further down in the draft that will probably put up better numbers for the whole season. And I think people are, could bite me in the butt, but I just think Bucky, he had a good season last season. I think people are trying to overproject that now. And they're, the folks that picked him last year are doubling down on him, especially in redrafts. Oh, I knew it. And I just think it's a different year, right? For people adapt to him. They'll play him differently on defense. It won't be someone that was maybe underestimated, honestly, last year. And it's, teams in NFL, they adapt very quickly to what another team's strength is. So, I don't think his numbers will be anywhere. Honestly, I don't even think they'll be anywhere near close to what he was last year.
Yeah, I have him as my running back 10 in my rankings. He's going as RB9, as you said. And I think that, probably his ceiling is probably 7, right? When you're looking at all these running backs where, he's kind of being drafted at his ceiling, but he definitely has a much lower floor. When you look at this backfield, they have Rachaad White, who was a top 24 running back last season. They have Sean Tucker, who I really like as a talent, fell in the draft because of an injury. But I think that Sean Tucker is a guy who could definitely add a different dimension to this offense that Bucky and Rachaad White don't really have. They did draft Emeka Egbuka as well, so they're going to be throwing the ball. If this offense isn't as prolific as it was last year, if they take a little bit of a step back, if Sean Tucker takes a couple of Bucky's touchdowns away, and that's really all it's going to take for him to go from being drafted at the 9 to maybe he ends up around 17. Just if he loses a few touchdowns, loses maybe a big play here or there. Maybe he loses a little bit of volume to Sean Tucker as well, which I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. And in this NFC South division, you think that the Bucs are for sure going to win this division, so they should be up a lot. But I don't necessarily think that's a guarantee with the Falcons being young as well as the Panthers. I think that those two teams will be able to keep them into these games, and the Buccaneers aren't just going to be running all over this division this year. So if he loses a couple of touchdowns to Sean Tucker, which I think the Buccaneers should do, Sean Tucker should get more volume. He's looked great every opportunity he's had, and he's a bigger guy than Bucky Irving. So goal line, he should come in. Short yardage, he should come in and just get some more first and second down carries. So I do think that he's being drafted kind of around his ceiling, and he's a guy I don't have in any of the drafts I've done so far, and he's not on my 2-draft list. So I'm definitely avoiding him at his current ADP as well. Jeff, do you feel the same?
I do. One thing I don't think people are looking at with the McMillan injury, I think they're going to start to use Tez Johnson as more of a guy that's getting really quick throws, possibly doing some little things out of the swing passes out of the backfield, things like that. He is actually slotted as the backup to McMillan, and we know that Godwin doesn't look like he's walking through that door anytime soon. So they're going to change up that offense a little bit, and I think it's going to take away the passing out of the backfield a lot to Irving as well, taking him down, a little bit more as far as his usage is concerned.
Yeah, and I did say today we're going to talk about one guy who's maybe not actually good at football. Bucky Irving, good at football. Ladd McConkey, amazing at football. But Jeff's got a guy here who might be a bust in fantasy football, and he might be a bust in actual football as well for his new team. Jeff, who is your bust pick?
And that is it. I'm saying it from this perspective. Basically, if you're looking at the production that he had last year with the Vikings, I don't think Sam Darnold is going to have even close to that production this year. So people are looking at him as a possibly a QB1, a starting quarterback. And I don't think by the latter third of the season, he may not even be the starting quarterback for this team. I think it might be Jalen Milroe. I think the Seahawks are going to run the ball a ton. You have basically a Harbaugh disciple in the head coach. And you got to look at this. if it wasn't for Lamar Jackson's running ability to score touchdowns, would you be drafting him? Is high. Sam Darnold can do a little bit of running, but he's not going to do that type of running to get, put points on the board. So they're going to run the ball. I think it's going to hurt JSN a little bit as well. I don't know what Cooper Kupp actually has left. You have the rookie Torrey Horton. This is just it's going to be an interesting thing. And I think there's a lot of people who are like, I can wait and get a starting quarterback that will give me decent production, way down. I think in some of the leagues, Yahoo, they've got him as 24, ESPN ranked 28 as far as the quarterbacks. But yeah, this guy, I'm just looking at it. He may not be starting by the middle of the year here.
Yeah, you look at Sam Darnold, he succeeded last year in Minnesota, which has been a quarterback-friendly system. Mm-hmm. They have a good offensive line. They have a good play-action game, and they have Justin Jefferson, which obviously helps when you're a quarterback. But when you look at Sam Darnold's past, when he was with New York or with Carolina, one thing that those two teams did not provide him with was a good offensive line. And that's exactly what Seattle's going to give him, a bad offensive line. So that's not going to help him. He's a guy that sees ghosts, is what he was caught seeing in New York. And I think with the bad offensive line, we're going to see Sam Darnold revert back to that, where he's not comfortable. And you're really going to see him where he's going to be making bad decisions. Will they move on to Jalen Milroe? I think that we'll see him worked in packages. But I think they give Sam Darnold the season this year at least to kind of prove himself. I don't believe Jalen Milroe can throw the ball at an NFL level. So I personally don't believe that they'll go in that direction at least this year. Or maybe if like week 17, 18, they might, if they're really out of it. But I think Sam Darnold will be okay. But I don't think he's a guy that I would want in fantasy football for sure. Will, what do you think?
Yeah, to your point about the Seattle's offensive line, I mean, if you look at the last game Sam Darnold played regular season in the playoff game, the ghosts, right? And you get pressure up the middle on him and you get around his feet, he has a problem with that. And so, I give him about 6 weeks in Seattle, unless they fix that offensive line. They can fix their offensive line and he has a clean pocket. The Vikings showed he can be deadly, but Sam will be the Vikings backup next year.
Yeah. I keep looking at, as far as Jalen Milroe, I think he's more Lamar Jackson than Anthony Richardson. That's the thing I see them using him in a lot more, where he's
that's a statement.
Definitely a little bit more shifty out of the backfield, more like a Lamar. Where they may get him ready for the simple throws. He doesn't have to make the, pinpoint accuracy throws. But I think he might be more accurate than Anthony Richardson. So we'll see.
I mean, Jalen Milroe couldn't hit his 5-star wide receivers that were wide open in Alabama. So I don't know what you think that Seattle's coaching staff can do with that. But he's a guy who was not good throwing the ball at Alabama, which is one of the best offensive lines in the country, best wide receivers in the country, and he still wasn't able to,
worried about his legs. They're going to be worried about his legs.
He can run. He could be, Cordell Patterson out of the backfield, I'm sure. But I don't see him throwing the ball too well. I see him as more of an Anthony Richardson, a guy who just really didn't have the accuracy in college, had the athletic ability, and then he comes into the NFL. At least for Jalen Milroe, he doesn't come into the NFL with the expectations Anthony Richardson did. So we can sit behind Sam Darnold for the year. Maybe he plays a game or two at the end of the season, and Seattle can see what they have in him, kind of like Joe Milton did with the Patriots last year. But we will see. There is 3 sleepers. Like I said, go check out last week's episode if you haven't already, which we recorded earlier today. Go check out those for some sleepers, some guys to target. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you, Jeff and Will, for joining me. Next time we talk football will be on, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
Thanks.
Sounds good.
Let's go.